Hey everyone, welcome to the intro of episode 51 of the podcast.
So close to a year.
So close to a year.
To start off, because we're going to promote it everywhere we can.
Yeah.
We have a survey. We mentioned in the episode. We talk about where it is.
At least once.
But look for it on all of our platforms. Twitter, email. We will email people that we know their email to, so we will hit them with the spam folder.
Yeah, and it's also on our website.
It's on our website, and it'll be on links on our YouTube videos. Going forward, probably not backward. Maybe backward. I can edit.
But yeah, we created a survey because we want to know how we're doing. We want to know if we should even keep doing this anymore. Yeah. So it's a very short survey. Please, if you have the time, fill it out. Just let us know your opinions.
15 questions?
It's 15 questions.
Yeah, multiple choice.
All multiple choice
should
for the
take
most
you
part.
2 minutes tops.
Yeah, and it's all about like, hey, are the episodes too short or too long? To what are your favorite segments? So
we want to get all this stuff in before the new year rolls around, because if we decide to do a season 2,
we want to start off fresh with a new format and all the new bells and whistles, and so let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and if we should even keep doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you wrote in and
that wasn't a question, but
don't
if
do it anymore.
Yeah,
that'd be rude.
Yeah.
But anyway, in this episode, we talk Gamescom news, because that happened a week ago.
Well, 2 weeks ago by the time it comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then we just had an episode already in the chamber, so that's why we didn't get to it until now. And then we talk games we're playing.
Yep.
It's real simple, back to basics kind of episode.
Yeah, I talked about Dying Light.
And I talked about Rocket League and Mass Effect 3.
Yep. Trace.
Yeah, not Mass Effect 1, which was more in line with games I'd play.
Yeah.
But
anyways, thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully you can fill out that survey. We would greatly appreciate it. And we just want to say thank you, too, to everybody that does actually respond. We like to make jokes about how nobody ever responds to anything. But the people that do respond, we really appreciate you.
Yep.
So
and even if sometimes we forget to tell you about good things to go to in Chicago, and then you've already visited Chicago.
Yeah.
Know that
sorry.
We
dropped the ball on that one.
Know that we feel bad about that.
Yeah.
And that we're making patches for all of our fans.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Enjoy the episode.
Subscribe on iTunes. Just download the episode like 3 or 4 times. That'd really help us out.
Recording?
Yeah.
We ready?
You want to just jump right into it?
Skip banter.
No,
we got big news. Sin Cara confirmed for WWE 2K16.
Finally.
Nope.
Now I can finally put that money down on that pre-order.
Yeah, well, pre-orders you get Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. But that wasn't enough to get me.
Now that you know that Sin Cara is there. Trying to pull up all these pictures of hot wrestling ladies, but my internet's just too slow.
Yeah.
So
because the picture size is probably pretty big.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it. News.
I thought you were going to go to the new #1 source for video game news, Pornhub.
Pornhub. Yeah, we can start, I guess, since I already broke the seal.
Yeah.
Talking about, well, probably the most important news that we have.
Right.
Is WWE 2K16.
And you can just turn this episode off.
I mean, should I just run down the list?
Yeah, just do it. Let's go through
first
the whole
18.
thing.
First of all, this game's going to have 120 characters.
Yeah.
That seems like a crazy amount of wrestlers.
Yeah, I just have a feeling they're basically all going to be skins of the same 2 grapple moves. You know what I mean? Like the character list.
Everyone just does a headbutt and a knife edge chop.
Right. They flex their muscles and then they can jump off the ropes, and that's about it.
I mean, I think the biggest one we've already talked about, Hulk Hogan not on the list.
Yep.
Cover athlete, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Relevant today as ever.
Finally. I only recognize about 4 people on this list. Kane, because he's been there forever.
Right.
Triple H, because he's been there forever.
Yeah.
Stone Cold, obviously. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. Not even a wrestler.
Not a wrestler. And Booker T, because I remember him when I used to watch, but no, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But yeah. That's... I'm not going to read all 18.
No. Good.
Because me just reading names of people I don't know seems like a terrible idea. Picture pulled up.
Before we go too far, though, I'm Chris.
Oh. I'm Sin Cara.
Yep. Since we don't do it in the intro anymore, we got to actually do it.
I think the 2 fans know who we are by now.
I know. Speaking of,
should we go cleanup news?
Well, it depends what you mean by that. Sure.
I mean our email.
Yeah. So we got 2 things we want to talk about before we get into the actual rest of the episode.
The rest of the wrestling episode.
Yes.
Of this podcast.
So yeah, we got an email from Denny D.
Yeah.
Another one of our super fans. I think he's earned that mantle at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the super fan, we give it to so few people.
Yeah, you're considered
really gotta work hard to get it.
Yeah, you're considered like almost a super fan if you send us one sort of correspondence, but he sent us more than one, therefore he's already made it.
Yeah, he's made it. Yeah. Well, your badge is in the mail.
Yeah.
You can stitch it on to your jacket.
And the Dakota rings are coming out in the fall.
Yeah. We're working on the design still. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we did our games episode two episodes ago?
Now. Yeah, the thing is, we had recorded the news episode before we got this email. That's why we didn't talk about it last episode.
Yeah. But he wanted to voice his opinion on the Escapists, which he played.
Yeah,
I did see him playing on TA. I saw him popping some achievements in it. So I can confirm
he's not lying.
That he is not lying. That him or someone posing as him under his account has played the Escapists.
Yeah. And he kind of had the same feelings overall that we did. He even went on to say at the very end, like, he's upset that he paid $20 for this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry too. I feel like I should take the blame.
Oh no, I don't know if you're necessarily responsible.
I mean,
if you want to send him $20 with that badge, you can go ahead.
I'll send him $2.
Yeah, okay.
When would the Dakota rings come out?
But he was talking about how he made it to the 3rd prison, and how once you get to the 3rd prison, the difficulty goes way up, way more guards, way more inmates. It's a lot more intricate in what you have to do, because you can't just sort of do the brute force, beat up all the guards, sort of thing. And he said, it's impossible to try to actually beat this game without a crafting guide.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and we were kind of talking just to snip it off air when we both saw the email. Is just like, the one thing that this game doesn't need to make it better is difficulty.
Harder, right?
Because trying to play this quote unquote legit, where you're actually trying to like great escape this and like dig out of your prison cell walls and stuff like that, it's just like the guards, since they just walk past and immediately throw you into solitary and confiscate all your items. Like, it's not like, oh, you know what they need more of? More guards. Right. So now your time window from an hour of in-game is now 15 minutes of in-game a day.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have a save file that's 40 days in a single prison. Like, that wouldn't make the game more fun. That would mean, like, I'm just loading more because I'm getting caught, losing my items, and then just being like, fuck that, I'll just retry the day.
Yeah, I mean, I know even with the 2nd prison and stuff, you have to, like, turn off, like, an electric fence and stuff like that. You have to go into a generator and do all this other stuff. And so the more of those things, because they're not super obvious that you have to do them. Like, they're not like, oh, there's not a wall that says, like, generator room, or you don't, like, know the fence is electrified until you've already halfway through your escape.
Yeah.
So, like, adding even more randomness, more craziness, it just makes it less fun.
Like, and we'll stop talking about this quickly, but it's like, there's a way that they could have done it where adding more things is interesting.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to, like, if there were more ways for you to accomplish your goals.
Right.
Throwing a generator in...
If it was a Hitman game.
Yeah, throwing a generator in is great.
Yeah.
If there's, like, 10 ways to destroy that generator. Throwing that generator in for the electric fence, but there's only one way to shut it down. It's like, okay, you didn't add anything to it.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, if you could escape 20 times, sure, make it difficult where maybe a couple plans fail, and then you're just like, fuck it, I'm going to try this way. But just like, when there's only 3 ways to escape, and by adding 100 more guards, you will eliminate...
Just makes those ways harder.
Yeah.
Not
and you
more
eliminate
creative.
One of them.
Yeah.
You can't, like, beat up everyone. So now you're just like, oh, cool. Now I can only do this way.
Yeah.
But that's The Escapists. I stand by my rating. I haven't played it since.
No, neither have I. No, I don't plan on playing it anymore. And then I guess the other thing we'll talk about right now... Well, should we talk about now or later on, the survey?
We can do it now.
Okay. I have a feeling we're going to talk about it in the intro, so I don't know if we want to talk about it.
We can talk about both.
Okay, we'll talk about it like 3 times during this episode.
Yeah, just half this episode can be dedicated to this.
Okay. So, as we enter into year 2 of this podcast, next episode will be the year anniversary. Mm-hmm. We're looking to sort of, I guess, reflect on the past year. We want to see what we did well, what we didn't do well.
Yep.
We've always been willing to make changes to this show. We're not married to any of the segments or formats or any of that stuff. So we've decided to create a little survey, very short survey, probably takes a few minutes. We will
not even a few minutes.
Not even. It's 15 questions, but that sounds like a lot.
And they're multiple choice.
Yeah.
And there's no like
essays.
There's no essay section.
Yeah.
Or math problems.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, we just want to know basic stuff. Everything from how long you think the episode should be to, what your favorite segments are.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. So if you could take a moment to fill that out, that would be super great. We want to know...
How do they get to this survey?
So we're going to tweet it out. We'll put it on our Facebook. We will maybe add a link to the description of this episode in iTunes. And our super fans will probably also get an email. But it'll be up on the website as one of the non-podcast posts.
Okay.
So I think that'll bring the subtotal up to maybe 3?
3 posts?
3 posts that weren't to do with the actual episodes.
Yeah.
But it'll be on the website. This isn't funnymoorepodcast.com, which might be different by the time this episode comes out. But anyways. Or you can find it on our Twitter at NotFunPodcast. There'll be a link there.
I'll link it in one of my many YouTubery videos.
Yeah, we'll throw it on the YouTube descriptions, I guess, for a while. But yeah, please, guys, fill this out because we want to know what we're doing. And what we're doing wrong is just as, if not more important than what we're doing right. Because if there's something that you hate that we do all the time, please let us know. Like, be brutally honest, because that's the only way we're going to get better.
Yeah.
Like, we want to make sure you guys are having fun and want to actually listen to this podcast.
Yeah, like this isn't a lot of podcasts do surveys that are for their advertisers. Like,
this is not.
There's no questions like your demographics and all that kind of like boring like, hello, I am a white male, ages 18 to 48. It's like, okay, when we talk about news, do you enjoy that portion? Do you like 3-word pitch? Do you hate this game? Like, those are the questions where it's all specific to the podcast, and none of it's going to be like, we're not going to,
are you thinking about buying a car the next 6 months?
Yeah, it's like, can you give us your social?
Yeah. And it's all anonymous too, so if you just want to throw hate at us, legitimate hate, don't just like tank our survey. But if you don't, like, if you're worried about filling it out because you think we're going to find out who you are, we will not. There's no way to figure out who's doing what.
My mistake is I tanked the survey, but we haven't released it yet.
So I know.
Chris immediately knew
all the numbers are all because of Phil.
All skewed. Ones. I hate everything.
Also, I just want to tell you where my head's at right now.
Yeah. This is a free...
This is real talk for a second, guys.
Warning, real talk incoming.
I don't know if I want to keep doing this podcast.
Okay.
Not because I don't enjoy doing it.
Sure.
But because I feel like there's not... Like, this has almost been a year now that we've been shouting into the void, right?
Yeah.
We've had a couple guys that respond to stuff, and that's great, and that's always awesome. But I just don't know if the audience is there. Like, I know based on numbers, people are listening to it and stuff, but I don't know if they're enjoying it, and I don't know if we're doing the right thing. And because of that, it makes me not want to keep doing the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Like I said, I have no problem doing the podcast. I have fun doing the podcast. But, I don't know, I'm lacking motivation right now.
Real talk.
Hopefully the survey will be like, hey, look, there's, X amount of people out there, and they love everything we do, or they want us to change this, and then me changing things will make me feel better about it. But...
real talk with you, back at you.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with any of it. I think it comes down to the survey. We put it out this episode. We'll put out our year. We at least got to finish our year.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Put it up for that one. I'll put the link on YouTube videos. If we get like 3 responses and that's it, and it's not one of us.
Right.
Like, it's a legit 3. I mean, you remove Jake, so now we have 2 responses.
Right.
Okay, we need more than that. Let's say if we get enough responses where it's like, okay, people are listening, even if they give us all 5s.
We won't put a number on it, but yeah.
And then, or they give us all 1s, then we're like, okay, there's people listening, they're just not active followers. I say we continue.
Yeah.
If we only get our super fans and Jake responding to the survey, then I think we could call it, and we could maybe transition into just doing Twitch streams.
Yeah, because that's another thing too. Like, you know, you're getting more into your videos and watching you do those videos. I was like, yeah, I'd rather just, you know, Twitch an hour of what I'm playing right now.
Yeah,
like that might be more fun to people too. I know there's certainly more of a Twitch audience out there, not specifically for us, but like in general. Like when we do Twitch streams, we randomly just pick up Twitch followers here and there that do not listen to the podcast. So,
I would say that is probably a better option.
Yeah,
is
if there's nobody listening to this.
If there's nobody listening, maybe we get overwhelming support, and people are like, "No, we listen to it. Great stuff."
Yeah.
But I think, like, I have more fun just doing an hour video talking about a game.
Right.
And just doing, like, specific snippets in time.
And that's another thing, too. Like, I kind of am more excited right now to, like, do a video. Like, I'd rather be like, hey, when let's say I bought Rare Replay. Like, I'd rather the 2 of us just sit down on the couch once a week and play that.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, I can't do that because we got this podcast that takes a while. Then you have those other videos you're doing. You got Mega Man, you got Turk, you got whatever. And it's like, okay, we can't spend 4 days a week just doing this stuff. So it's like, I'd rather maybe replace the podcast with, hey, we'll play couch co-op games like once a week or something. Like that would be, that's more fun right now. Like that sounds more fun to me.
We could even talk news while we're playing couch co-op.
That's true.
Like you could get your news fill from our videos.
Yeah,
but then
if we get good enough at doing that too, we could just release the audio from the Twitch as a podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But don't you need a place to host it? Wasn't that the whole thing?
I've found a way around that.
Okay.
But we'll talk about that off air.
Sure. Yeah, but I'm with you. I would almost say that I would prefer, and I think we could do more content by switching to videos.
Yeah.
Because if you think an hour of your day, and if you do it like I'm doing right now, I'm not saying I'm doing a great one, but it's just like no cuts, no edits, just like, hey, you're just kind of playing like for an hour, stream of conscious, whatever it is. Like that is 1 hour. There's no edits. You hit the process on YouTube and you walk away, and then whatever, go make yourself dinner. You do your rest of your day, and then there's already an hour of content. You could almost do. I'm not promising this for people who are listening.
No,
but you could almost do like you did a video on Tuesday, and I did a video on Thursday, and then we did a couch co-op game once a week.
Certainly, I could come up with probably 6 hour-long videos in the time it takes me to do the one podcast.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we could do. You could have 3 videos out a week, one from each of us, and then one together, which is more content than one episode of a podcast.
Yeah,
especially if it's like an episode where there's light news. Because then it's just like, okay, what are we playing? Well, we can A, show you what we're playing and talk news at the same time.
Yeah. Another thing, I guess, while we're deep in this real talk.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, this is something that happens all the time, so it's not like a huge revelation.
Pooping?
Yeah. Thinking about pooping.
Childish
thinking about retiring from achievement hunting.
Okay. I'm listening.
I think the two things are sort of kind of connected. Where I feel like I'm in a certain place right now.
Yeah.
Like I'll call it a phase, I guess, because like I said, I've gone through it before.
Yeah.
Where it's like I just don't want to care about achievements.
Yeah.
Like let's jump ahead a little bit. Played Dying Light start to finish, and all I have left is get all the collectibles and the multiplayer achievements. And I don't want to go back and play this game. Like, I had fun with it. It was fine. I'm glad I played it for a week. But if I never pick up the game again, I'll be happy. And so I'd rather not go back and spend another 20 hours finding all 197 collectibles in the game.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't. It's not like I'm going to give up video games. The way I got around it before in college, when I was like, I just don't have time to like 100% completion everything, is I have to not worry about like completion percentage and all that stuff. I have to just be like, okay, I'm just gonna worry about like overall gamer score.
Yeah.
That way, I'm still sort of tied into the numbers, but I don't like. I'll just play this game. Hey,
Just
if I
focus
just play,
somewhere else.
If I just play the story mode and get all those achievements, that's all a plus. I don't have to look at it as, oh, I've only gotten 40% of 100, because then that's what makes me crazy and have to go and get everything. So I'm just telling you where I'm at right now. Maybe once I get to, I was thinking maybe once I get to like 200,000, I'll be comfortable just being like, hey, I'm just going to play quote unquote casually.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to happen. Next week, my feelings might change. But
I get in these phases all the time.
yeah.
All of the time. Like every other week. And
Yeah,
that's partially,
like,
and we
it's
know,
like, because it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go clean. I'm gonna get off the drug. I'm
Yeah.
gonna turn my life around.
and partially, and like everyone knows, my reason is because I just play shitty games,
Yeah.
and that just drives me away from video games.
Yeah.
But what I've found is that if a game is released on 360 and my PC, I am now more likely to get it on PC.
So you don't have to do it with
So
achievements.
just wipe. I can
Yeah.
wipe achievements clean. Like New King's Quest came out a while ago. I'm an old, obviously, adventure game fan. Came out on both systems, and I was just like, well, it's going to run the same. I can get it for 360 and then force myself to get all of the achievements, which I didn't even look to see how difficult they are.
yeah.
Or I can just get it on PC, play it once through, have my fun with it,
Yeah.
and not work, like, not, first of all, because achievements kind of ruin two things. One, before you start a game, you look up to see,
So it usually
I don't miss a
spoils-
collectible.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing. Like, Alan Wake taught me one thing, is just like, I loved Alan Wake, but I also don't want to play it 10 times because I missed one coffee thermos.
Yeah.
So it's like, I will ruin this game for me by starting the game off with a goddamn collectible guide in front of me.
So I'll see everything that I'm gonna do minutes before I do it. Like
Yeah.
I'll watch like 30 seconds to see what the next collectible is, and then I know what's gonna come up.
Yeah. So it's like, that ruins the game for you. So it's like, by removing that temptation, it's just like, okay, now I don't need to look up, like, oh, I need to select this dialogue option. It's just like, oh, I just played the game, and I only got 10 out of 20.
Yeah.
But I'm done. Like, I've hit the game wall, and I'm happy. I will say that I have been leaning the way that you
Yeah.
are thinking now more recently than ever.
Yeah. And it's just this, like I said too. Like I played a game that I
Just everything coming to a close.
I know.
Podcast,
Yeah.
achievements.
Like I'm not gonna stop playing games. Like that's for sure. Like I know there's still plenty of games I want to play, but that's the thing. I don't want to like do this sort of like pros and cons list before I
You don't want to
purchase
talk
every
yourself,
game.
You don't want to talk yourself out of playing Tomb Raider just because you're like, those
The achievements,
multiple
right.
achievements are looming. You're like, I want to play that game because I want to play the next one.
And also, I don't want to. Like, that's the thing. I don't want to have to look at like 3 different websites that are all about achievements to see like how long it's going to take, how difficult it is, like what achievements I have to work on before I even start the game. Like that sort of stuff is kind of just ruins. It just makes it a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Especially, like I said, even if you're playing fun games, it ruins fun games. So I can only imagine what you're going through with these awful games.
fun.
Yeah. Like even Turok, I wouldn't mind going to play Turok as much if I knew okay, I'm just going to play through the story and have fun, even if it's a bad game.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about getting 1,000 achievements. But if I have to like impose all these other structures and like the job aspect on top,
Use
stab
your knife
4,000.
to stab 100 guys.
Yeah.
Pin 50 guys to the wall with the bow and arrow,
Which
which
is
is
not
the
easy.
hardest thing to do.
Yeah. That's another thing too. Like you look at the achievements sometimes, and they're like, "Oh, that should be fine," but then it turns out, like because of game mechanics or the way things are set up, they're impossible. Like pin 50 guys to a wall, I would have thought like, "Oh, that's probably an easy one that I'll get throughout the game, or I can probably boost in 1 or 2 areas."
Yeah.
But
Here's what I remember about Turok. I know we always talk about Turok.
I know.
It
Well,
always
I feel
comes
like it's
back.
the only game you're playing right now, even though you started to play Mass Effect 3 again.
Yeah, and I've got computer games
Yeah.
too. But on normal, because I thought like the knives and the bows, like I have to play the game twice no matter what. I knew that. Normal
Oh, they
and
don't
hardcore.
stack?
They stack
Okay.
the scores. So I was just like, I'll see how far I am as knife kills after playing on normal, and then I might
3.
need to boost it. Knife kills, I was at like 60 out of 100.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I won't get 60 because I'll be playing on hard difficulty, but I could probably get close. Bow and arrow kills out of 50, 4 pins for an entire playthrough.
Yeah.
So then it's just like, even if I make it a priority, what do I hit? 12 on a second playthrough, and now I have to boost 38 more of these just in a room by myself.
Right.
Good times. I like to see that we're
in the same headspace.
We're coming together.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into some Gamescom news.
News.
Should have been on last episode, but we had already recorded all that new stuff, and we figured let's not have like 4 hours of news.
Yeah.
So here are the Gamescom news stuff. I feel like you
watched the press conference.
You watched the Microsoft one,
yes.
Which everyone said they nailed it. Like I thought they did a good job, but I didn't think it was necessarily better than E3.
No.
And everyone's like, "Oh my god, Xbox totally tore it up at Gamescom. They won hands down."
Yeah, because
nobody else showed up. But I just meant like they're like, yeah, they killed it. Like they did everything they did was like perfect, and everyone was excited for stuff.
Yeah, before we get into specific news, my Gamescom belief is just like it can't compare to E3, and that's a tough part because it's coming after E3, so it's like they're doing a press conference, so you're just like, okay, like let's see what they got.
Yeah,
and then the thing is just like, yeah, I mean. I'll say that I went in with expectations where just like I don't normally watch press conferences unless they're E3. So to watch this, I'm just like something's gonna blow me away, and then just like it's just games that we already knew were kind of coming down the pipeline.
So Gamescom is like EA has been like the big budget like sponsored by Red Bull crazy explosion trailers sort of thing.
Yeah,
and Gamescom is supposed to be about the developers, and so. Microsoft was the only one that really did a press conference this year, but it was like they were holding back some games from E3. That's why it kind of felt like a mini E3.
Yeah.
But it was mainly like all the demos and stuff, all the usually behind closed door stuff was all like tech demos, and like you would see things in like debug mode, and they would show you how their server works. So that's what Gamescom is supposed to be about, the developers. It's supposed to be like, hey, this is how we did this game technologically, not like this is a sizzle reel of all our new games. So... It was I would say their best Gamescom press conference.
Sure.
But
and it beat Sony and Nintendo's Gamescom press conference by a mile.
By a mile. But they did throw a couple of surprises, I think, and certainly I paid attention to games because they focused them in their press conference that I normally would not have known about. Like I've been avoiding Scalebound.
Yeah.
But now I think it looks pretty cool, like because that's the first time I paid attention to it, and I was like, oh yeah, this might actually be okay. Yeah. It's super Japanesey, not like the games that I normally choose to play, and because of that, and it still interests me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on board now. But like I don't know, let's just jump into it.
Sure.
The biggest surprise for me was Halo Wars 2.
Yeah, I know you really liked the first Halo Wars.
Yeah, I really liked the first one, and I knew at some point because it's Microsoft and because they own Halo, they're gonna come back to it. But it was weird that Creative Assembly is doing it.
Yeah, they're known for their RTSs.
Right.
They didn't do the first game because the first game did the company go under?
Yeah. Before the game even came out.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft bought that Ensemble Studios, they bought them and then absorbed them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I should have looked this up. I think Creative Assembly is the ones that did Alien Isolation last year.
We are not good at looking things up. Yeah, I mean, here's I having not played the first Halo Wars.
Yeah.
And I knew that you liked it. My only thing is I thought that was a weird closer to end on Halo Wars. I feel like
because it was a completely unannounced game, there wasn't even rumors about it.
Yeah, but I feel like I don't know. I think a stronger closer would have been like, here's your first look at Quantum Break, or here's
Well, they did that like in the meat of the press conference.
Yeah, they did that in the meat, but I feel like that's when I don't know. My organization would have been different, but of course I'm skewing towards what I would have favored.
I think their thing is they put that at the end because they don't really have anything to show from it other than the CG trailer. Yeah. That way, it's the first thing on everyone's mind because it was the last thing you saw, so that's the first thing everyone's going to talk about when they leave the press conference.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it was just, like I said, a CG trailer. Looks pretty cool. They picked a company that's known for their RTSs that possibly made a game that I really liked last year, if they're the ones that did Alien Isolation. So yeah, I mean,
I'll try and look it up, but you keep talking.
Yeah, I'm not a big RTS fan. Like, I've played maybe 2 or 3, and so that's why. So don't be like, oh, he likes Halo Wars, therefore it must be a great RTS. I'm saying I don't really know. I just know that I had fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
We don't work in the industry, so our likes and dislikes hold no weight.
Right. But, I mean, yeah, I don't know if you just want to go down the list I have of some of the things they talked about.
I don't know what you have on your list, so I will let you... they did do Alien Isolation. Creative Assembly.
Yeah,
they also
that's
did
what I thought.
They also did all the Total War games.
Right. Well, that's why they chose them, which makes sense. So it's like positive, negative. I'm glad that they're involved with Halo Wars because that means Halo Wars is going to be better. But at the same time, I mean, you can't make like Alien Isolation 2 probably. But I would like them to make a game sort of like that. Like I really like the way they did that. So let's see the other stuff I have here on the list.
But they also made Stormrise.
Yeah,
360 game that was awful.
Yeah, I don't know.
So one way. Did you? Are we going down the games list or like news list?
No, I just like scribbled down some notes as I watched the press conference. So this is kind of like chronologically what they talked about. I guess so. Rare Replay came out right when the press conference came out, and all of those games actually that were released on the 360 are backwards compatible.
Yes.
So you didn't necessarily need to buy the Rare Replay package. If you do, you get like all of the non-360 games on the disc. Everything else is downloaded onto your console as if it were a 360 compatible game, a digital game.
So if your favorite games from the Rare Replay were Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, but you already bought those on 360, then you don't necessarily need to buy Rare Replay because they'll just come to your console once they release the backwards compatibility.
Right.
This is like if you weren't in the preview program and you still want to test backwards compatibility,
pretty much,
then it's like buy Rare Replay and you can play these before they make it live.
Yeah. Also, just to talk about backwards compatibility for a second, like the Gears of War stuff too. Like if you buy the Gears of War Ultimate Edition, the remaster, you get all the other games then as backwards compatibility downloads for free, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
And like Gears of War 1 is already on there. So like we kind of thought like, hey, if they're coming out with like a remaster, they're not going to make it backwards compatible, but they seem like they're just going all out of it. They want this backwards compatibility to be like a big deal.
Yeah, I think
so. They're doing everything they can now.
Yeah, I think especially Microsoft first party stuff.
Yeah, I know all the first party stuff. They said is definitely going to be on there.
Yeah, where they're just like, no, we want to make sure that this launches with plenty of games because they know the flack that they would get is if they do backwards compatibility and like 15 games come out for it and they're all kind of garbage games.
Yeah.
So it's like they got to make sure that like the franchise is there. You got your Gears, you got your backwards compatibility with Halo, you got your Rare stuff because they have a stake in Rare. So it's like you have to put those games on. It's almost a show of like goodwill.
Yeah, and also they announced that all the games with gold from now on will be backwards compatible. So that means that like if you have an Xbox One now, and you no longer have your 360 or don't play with it, anytime they release a 360 games with gold, you can then automatically just download it on your Xbox One and play those games. So you're basically now, even though they've already last month or 2 months ago they doubled how many games you get a month, now you're getting even more. If you're not using both a 360 and an Xbox One, so that's pretty cool. Let's see. Oh well, also just in general. Because like E3 is like the big thing, like we were talking about before, it seemed like E3 is like all the games that are going to come out this year.
And Gamescom is like
and
next
Gamescom
year.
is like next year or maybe even further out. So then like the first big game we got was Quantum Break, and it is changed so much since last time we saw it, which is very typical of the studio Remedy.
Yeah.
Their games will always get delayed, and they're always going to change a lot during development.
Can I say, I don't know how you feel about how it looked, but it kind of bored me. It looked very generic third-person...
time-stopping game?
Yeah, like it looked like Prototype and Infamous and all these games where you're just like one guy versus an army, kind of superpowered.
Right.
Like, I love Remedy. First, let me say that. Like, I love Alan Wake. I loved Max Payne's when they were in charge of Max Payne. Like, I like the stuff that they do. And I think that the story for Quantum Break will probably be phenomenal. But just the little snippet, and it's hard to judge a game based on that whole snippet, but I was just like, I've seen this so many times that this portion, granted they just showed, like, here's
one
a little fight. I was just like, I feel like I would be very bored with that.
Have you seen the other gameplay stuff from before.
Yeah.
Because it does look a little bit different than the other one. And I do think that this one kind of does look more generic than their last gameplay videos, but it also makes more sense game mechanic wise. Because before I'm like, I don't know if they're actually going to pull off any of that stuff. It just seemed too scripted and too like perfect. This, you could clearly see the mechanics at work, like in a good way. Like, oh, he made like a little time bubble over there, or oh, he just froze this guy, or something like that. You know?
Yeah, like I agree. I think it makes more sense to do it this way.
Yeah.
But like the earlier stuff had me way more hyped for like, yes, I'm excited for this game. And seeing this, I was just like, oh, it's like third person time shift.
Yeah.
Can I just rewind my powers?
But the way they did change the story, because before it was like, okay, there was this guy and this girl, and they were both close to this industrial accident that happened at that facility.
Yeah.
That because they were close to this epicenter of the explosion that created these time rifts, they also had time powers. That the girl does not seem to be in it at all anymore. Maybe they just didn't focus on her, but they've replaced the main guy with Sean Ashmore from, like, you know, X-Men and stuff like that. And then his brother is played by Dominic Monaghan from Drive Shaft, you know, Lost and all that stuff, Lord of the Rings. And then Aidan Gillen from what's it called? Game of Thrones is also in it. So they've replaced the core cast with like famous people, and because of that, I thought they were just going to ditch the whole TV show tie-in to it, but instead they've completely redone the show than with these people. And I think it's probably overall it's going to be better. It's going to be better than the version that would have come out a year or two ago like it was scheduled to. But also then the whole quote-unquote interesting aspect of the TV show was people were going to sort of vote on what was going to happen then or something. Like there was going to be that sort of interactivity of like, hey, different things might happen in the show, which then is later going to change the game, or vice versa. Like, oh, people might be playing the game one way and make a decision, and then that way in the TV show. But because the whole integration of like a real-time, week-to-week TV show in the game doesn't happen anymore, they basically just made live-action cutscenes, I guess.
Yeah.
So, like I'm saying, I still don't know how this is going to play into it.
I think the mix of their live action, but then they also did like the CG looking cutscenes.
Well, no, there's definitely cutscenes in the game,
Yeah.
but I just meant like why is there still a TV show component to this?
Because they already paid all those actors.
But they didn't, because they redid everything.
Well, then they paid for the time. I don't know. Like I don't have an exact answer for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I think that'll be unique and interesting, and
Right.
I think that's where if I put this game on the Remedy pedestal, I think that's what the takeaway will be, is like, wow, that story was really
Well, the coolest
amazing.
part of the demo they showed was he walked into like his brother's laboratory that at this point was all like post-apocalyptic, like overgrown, and everything was broken. And then there was these weird sort of like time skips where you would see different things that were happening in the past in that building, and all that stuff looked really cool.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, yeah, the story might be fun for this game.
Yeah, I think the
even if
story
maybe
will
the
be...
gameplay mechanics aren't great, because I mean, on paper or just looking at a video of the Alan Wake gameplay mechanics, it looks kind of simple and boring and like it had been done before, but it was just fun.
Well, because I think
do it.
My argument for like the Alan Wake is just like their night cycle, their night and day stuff.
Yeah.
Was like the gameplay twist that was like, oh, okay, this is enjoyable. Where it's just like if you're these things come at you and it's nighttime
Yeah, but
and there's light stuff.
it's
And
kind
I'm
of just
sure
like,
there's
yeah,
gonna be
shine a
stuff-
flashlight
yeah.
at something until you get
Yeah,
rid of
if
its
you-
shields and then shoot it.
Yeah, if you break down like any
Yeah.
game, they're going to be boring, and I agree. Like Alan Wake, if you look at it's just like a third-person like runaway shooter. That's all it is. And Quantum Break is just a third-person beat 'em up. If you break it down, just like having seen the early videos, I was just hoping for Remedy to really blow me away, and just what I saw gameplay-wise was just like, yeah, okay, like I'd play it, but it goes from like. Before it was released, when it was just rumored, it was like, this is a game that I would get an Xbox One for, and now it's a game where it's just like, if I had an Xbox One, I would think about getting this game. Like it
really did that. I thought it was on par
dropped
with
for
the
me,
other
and,
stuff.
like, it's of course this is all I've seen of it. When the game comes out and more videos surface and reviews, then it can go back up the structure. I'm just saying, like, if I was to make a decision today about how I felt watching the Gamescom thing.
Yeah. And then they showed off, in the press conference, they showed off Crackdown 3, which I guess we now know is the official name. Before we thought it was just Crackdown for a long time because
Yeah,
we
I thought
weren't
it
sure
was
if it was a
gonna be the
reboot
Redux.
of the first one. But it turns out it is completely different. It takes place in a completely different city. And they showed multiplayer, which is the least interesting aspect in my opinion. Like, I'm not going to buy Crackdown for multiplayer.
But multiplayer has the biggest draw
It
in
turns
terms of the destruction.
No, it turns out that's in the entire game.
I disagree with you. Not the article I read today. It's that because of the
Limitations. It makes more sense if it's not in the entire game because I was super impressed with what I saw.
They said in single player, because you were trying to save the city and that
they don't want you to destroy the whole
that
thing.
there are certain mission markers and stuff that need to be on buildings, that not all of it is destructible. But
Okay.
in
'Cause
multiplayer,
I was gonna say, I
since
thought
it's
it was gonna
just
break
like
the game.
deathmatch,
Yeah.
then everything's destructible.
Okay, yeah. So there's 100%. They said 100% destructibility in the levels that you're playing when you're playing multiplayer.
Yeah.
So that means the city looks normal. Like, it's not just like a couple of blocks now. It's like the city looks exactly like it normally would. Giant skyscrapers, glass buildings, all this other stuff, and you can completely destroy everything, which does sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I saw a tech demo. Behind closed doors, there's like a 15-minute tech demo of like how they did this. And it's basically like, you've heard it before, but like the power of the Xbox Cloud, like the Microsoft Cloud, and that's how they're doing it. I mean, you've sort of seen it with a couple of other things before, like the Drivatars for like Forza. When that first came out, like, oh, that's why they use the cloud.
Yeah.
But this really uses the cloud because each building basically is being hosted on a different server. That's the way they're able to completely destroy like every building. So they're in this little courtyard where there's like a bunch of buildings around them, and of all those buildings, probably every other building was a completely different server. So there was like 5 to 6 servers hosting like 10 buildings. And that way, like, it's like I said, it's like every other one, because if you're in one area, you're probably going to cause a lot of destruction in that area. So it wouldn't make sense to put like these 3 buildings on one server, because then it's still taking all that power.
Yeah.
So it was cool because they were in debug mode. You could see the different colors for the different servers, and it also had like bars of like, hey, this is your Xbox running this. This is one of these servers. This is another server. So you could see in real time how things would like change and stuff. And because of that, they had to actually put like structures under every building. Usually these big open world games, 99% of the buildings are all just facades. They're all just pictures of an outside of a building. But this, they had to create like steel structures and then put like cement on that and put like glass, and like everything is destructible and fully interactable, which means like once the glass falls and breaks on the ground, you can then go and step on it, or you can like, if there's a piece of rebarb, you can like kick it around or pick it up. So it's pretty impressive.
Probably shoot a hole in a building and then jump in it.
Yeah, that was the
Kind of
thing. Is
situation,
they're
yeah.
like, hey, like, this is a skyscraper. It's got 70 floors. I can stand on a building that's half the size, blow a hole inside, jump in it. I could stand on the first floor and just look up and shoot a hole in that floor, jump in that one, keep doing that. Or I can destroy the entire building to get to the top. Like, they're like, hey, if there's a boss on the top level,
Yeah.
you can climb it, you can fly there, you can jump on holes, or you can just take 4 buddies and everybody shoots a support beam until the entire building falls down. So
Yeah, I mean, once like the multiplayer, like that function alone is just like, yeah, that's pretty sweet.
yeah,
The problem is it's just a Crackdown game.
right, exactly. But at the same time, like, the technology is now going to exist, and
Yeah.
they can find ways to make it in quote-unquote better games or different games.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same
This
time,
is the stepping stone.
the destructibility, 100% destructibility doesn't work in a campaign game, which is one of the things I want to talk about, which I thought that's how it was in the campaign. Because it was like, yeah, like, go into this building and then kill all these bad guys. Well, I'll just blow up the building.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, I got to get to this waypoint in like 30 seconds or something. Okay, well, I'm just going to blow a hole through the wall and jump through it then.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it kind of breaks the mechanics
Yeah,
of the game.
they thought of that and they were just like, well, we can't do that because you can't come in, blow up. Well, even like if you could blow up a building, but it's just like you can't blow up a building and then it's just like, oh shit, you have to get to the roof of this building for a chopper to pick you up.
Yeah.
And then have a waypoint that's just floating in midair that you can't
But
get
that
to.
would just kind of be your solution for everything. Is
Yeah.
just blow up the building. And then is that building just gone then for the rest of the game?
For the multiplayer game, yes.
Yeah, for the multiplayer it is, but I just
yeah,
meant,
for
like, if
single
you
player,
did it in a campaign.
Yeah, then it's... I mean, like, I think one of the solutions that somebody proposed was just like, they went back to like Battlefield Bad Company 2 or whatever, where you can blow
Which
up
had
anything.
like a lot of
where they're just like, you blow it up, and then once you get far enough away, the building just kind of respawns. And they're like, you could do it that way, where it's just like it's never fully, completely destroyed.
Yeah.
But then it's just like you can still have that fun, but then it's, obviously they weren't addressing this question to
No,
the
well,
people.
they didn't do it because of a technical elements. They did it just because of gameplay wouldn't have been fun. Like we were talking about, like story mode and stuff. You can't like create objectives when all you can do is just destroy the entire city.
Yeah,
if
all
you wanted to.
the objectives would have to be on street level.
Yeah, but it definitely is an interesting mechanic. Then Scalebound, like we were sort of talking about, like looked like a lot of fun. I don't know. It's this sort of like the fact that the main character is from apparently current time, and he somehow gets sent back in time, and he has this sort of bond with the dragon, and one of his arms is the same as the dragon. Like he's got like a dragon arm, basically.
You could say his arm is bound in scales.
Yeah, you could. I was trying to avoid that. But it kind of looks like almost like a, what is it, like prototype or like...
yeah, I mean, it looks...
I just meant like the arm itself and like a dark sector and stuff like that. Like he's got one arm and it kind of gives him like dragon powers.
Yeah.
But also that's what, binds him to the dragon. But it's cool. It's like normal. I guess it would be real time.
Yeah, it's real time like combat, but it's definitely like you can see like the damage models that are coming off. So it's not like it's like
normal... one of the newer Final Fantasies, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
they've taken a turn-based game and made it real time, but it's the same idea where it's like, a bunch of enemies here, you got to attack them all. But it's cool because the dragon kind of does his own thing. He's part of the fights, but you can also command him to do stuff. But the super cool thing, I think, is that there's 4-player co-op.
Yeah.
Like, that seems really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be able to play the game that way because I don't know 4 people at this point that have Xbox Ones or that play games with me regularly.
Yeah.
But that just seems cool. Like, the idea of, like, having just a massive war with, like, 4 of your buddies and 4 dragons, all of which have different powers. Like, the dragons have each unique sort of, like, I don't know if there's, like, fire and ice, but that sort of stuff. Like, they all have different looks, different glows to them.
I will be interested to hear more about how the 4-player co-op works, because if it truly is, like, I think a good comparison is, like, new Final Fantasy for Scalebound. I've always wanted, like, a cool multiplayer way to play Final Fantasy, so I wonder if it's kind of be like, hey, it's the full story mode, except for now you get these guys to help you in battle. That's what they say it is. Which would be great.
Yeah.
Or I wonder if it's kind of one of those things where just, like, there's a co-op mode.
No, I don't think so. It would be easier for them to do it that way.
Yeah.
But they're saying no. From what I understand, they said the entire game is playable with 4 people.
Yeah, well then that'd be interesting.
And especially if this is like a huge, like, 120-hour game, it would be great to be able to play it with 4 people. But then at the same time, games like that are harder to play with 4 people because somebody always wants to play when somebody else can't.
Yeah.
And then so you always get on different levels. Yeah. Because they're like, I want to play right now. Well, only 2 people are on. It's like, do we not play the story mode then? Do we just mess around? So
yeah, like if you were really gonna have a dedicated group, you'd have to set like a day and time, and you have to
if you're in college, it'd be a lot easier.
Every Saturday we're gonna play.
Yeah, and only then.
And only then, and for the other times you guys can play single player, but it's got to be on a separate save or something like that. Yeah.
Let's see, and then some of the other stuff they announced. Chat pad. I know you've been looking forward to that for the Xbox One controller.
I was joking when I said it in the podcast. I didn't think it existed, but to see that it's coming out, I was just like,
yeah, I mean, they might as well.
again, huh?
Right?
Stealing my chat pad.
So that's, whatever. I don't think... Certainly, you need to type more and more, I think, on this console. There's more typing involved, but because of the integration with so many other devices, like, smartphones, iPads, you can use an actual keyboard and mouse now, all that stuff. You really don't need this, but it's just another option. I don't think they're actually looking to sell as many as they did for the 360, because those did do pretty well.
I always just feel like, and this is me, the only time I've ever used one, I like the buttons are too goddamn small. That
they're too close together, and
it's just like I would type something and then have to like backspace and then type something in backspace. Like maybe I'm just handicapped when it comes to using a chat pad, but just like I could do things 100 times faster just using like the on-screen keyboard and just moving everything around and then just shortening my sentence and just being like, as opposed to saying like, "What are you doing?" I can do it much easier with like 5 commands.
Yeah, and if you're using your smartphone, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But the main thing is now you can have TV DVR. So with all the new services to watch TV over your Xbox, you can now finally record it like a real DVR. I guess you have to have an external hard drive, though, because they want all the internal stuff to be dedicated to processing games and all that stuff. So that's fine. That's not a big deal, especially if you're planning on recording a lot of stuff. You want that extra space anyways.
Yeah.
So that's not
Unless
a big deal.
Like one episode of Simpsons at a time.
Right. But just because of the integration and all that stuff, you can then stream it to any of your other devices, anything that has Windows 10 or stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. You can download, you can be recording TV shows like when you're out of town or something and watch everything on your laptop, or if somebody's using the TV for something else. So that's pretty cool. Also, I guess the limit I think is 2 hours. You can record up to 2 hours now at a time. That's pretty cool.
It's weird though.
Oh, maybe that was just for the game DVR now on Windows 10.
Oh, okay. So then say, like, what if I wanted to record, like, a basketball game? It's, like, one program, but it's, 3 hours long.
It would just divide it up into 2
hour segments?
Well, it would be like, hey, first 2 hours, then the last hour and a half or something, that sort of thing. I don't know if that's true. I heard there was a 2 hour, it had been expanded up to 2 hours now, but then might have, like I said, been for gameplay videos on Windows 10. Because before it was a lot shorter than that on the Xbox. Like, you have to do it in segments. Let's see. Oh, so Killer Instinct 3, they announced the season 3.
You got to get it.
You
haven't played
I'm
2
so
yet.
far away from like this game at this point. Like, I haven't played in a long time, but they did announce that Rash, the Battletoad, was available that day for preview. So I did boot it up.
So you could play as Rash?
So I could play as Rash. It was actually kind of fun to play as him. But he does not make sense in the Killer Instinct universe. Even though it's crazy universe, like, I don't want to see...
You want Rash in Mortal Kombat.
I don't even think Rash would work in Mortal Kombat. He would work in, like, a Clay Fighter or something else. So one of those other types of games. It was cool
Rash
to see him, though.
Mortal
They're
Kombat
just
would
throwing...
be pretty
They're
fun,
throwing Battletoads everywhere. They kept... Like, there was supposed to be this revival of Battletoads a couple of years ago because they kept showing the logos everywhere. But since then, I think they've just put them in, like, Shovel Knights... And now Killer Instinct and stuff.
Yeah,
but there's no standalone.
And Rare
Battletoads
Replay,
game.
I think there's like 2 or 3 Battletoads games, but obviously that's because Rare did them.
Yeah, but people want like a new Battletoads game.
I don't think
it's so hard though.
I don't think people realize that Battletoads wasn't that good.
No, I didn't. I never beat one because
they were impossible.
They're so hard.
Like, and I don't know if that's the reason people want
it's
one.
Just nostalgia.
Just like, but it's like I played Battletoads. I mean, like this is my era. But just like if you're going like side scroll and beat 'em ups, like Double Dragon was 200 times better, and it came out at the same goddamn time. Or if you
I think it's just one of those things where it's like it hasn't existed in like 20 plus years. There's only those couple of games and then it disappeared. So it's like in everyone's nostalgia mind, but it's not a game that's been rebooted or remastered or remade a million times. So let's see what else I got here on the list. Oh, the Ron Gilbert game,
Thimbleweed Park.
Yeah. That looks pretty cool. That looks fun, and I guess it's coming to the Xbox One early access. I don't know what they're calling it. I think the preview program. I think they're just calling it Games Preview.
Sure.
But yeah, the guy that co-made Monkey Island.
Yep. And
is got a new game with a reference to the main character in the name, right? Because wasn't that guy's name Thumbleweed or whatever?
I don't know.
I think one of the guys
might be.
Anyways,
but yeah, I've actually been following this game before the announcement. Believe it or not, a fan of Monkey Island, but he's been talking about it, and it's literally like they're not making an old school game to look new school. They're doing it as they did when he made Maniac Mansion.
Using like old technology basically.
Yeah, they're using the engines that they like made for Monkey Island and it looks stuff great. Like that. So it's just like it's pixels, but it's not like the new furnished pixels. Like they literally they've talked to the guy who's doing like the art for it. Yeah. He's literally doing it like pixel art where it's just like, one goddamn dot at a time to make a character and 10 by 10 pixels to make a whole face. Just like, it looks great. I will definitely be getting it.
Yeah.
But it's not out till next year.
Right,
got some time.
But the games preview program, as soon as they have the first build, they said it's going to be up there.
Yeah.
So I think that's an incentive more than any game they've released, certainly
to
so
get
far,
an Xbox
to get
One.
an Xbox
That's
One.
so far top of the list.
Yeah.
It's to preview a game.
And then another thing, a game that I had heard about before but never really saw anything for, the trailer for We Happy Few, I thought was pretty awesome. It's the dystopian 1960s London based game where everybody has they're all wearing like plastic masks. It's basically just BioShock, because BioShock was dystopian 1960s underwater city. This is
above
now
water.
It's in London. But like I said, yeah, the trailer was great. It was all, London Bridge in a creepy way. Everyone's got creepy masks. It's all weird. But then, unfortunately, I saw 10 minutes of gameplay video of somebody playing on the floor. So it's a little bit at the mercy of the person playing, but it just looked awful. I don't know if it's just because it's so far away from being made or what, but it was kind of boring. It was like you were just in this. The level was like, okay, it's like a couple blocks of like London. All the houses were basically look the same. They're small little squares. They got 2 floors, and there was 2 character models in the entire game at this point. There was the guy character model and the female character model. And if you could go into their houses, you could sort of loot and stuff. But if they saw you, there was like the little eye of them being seen, and once they saw you, they would attack you, and that's all there was.
Sounds rough.
It looked like an early like Xbox 360 game graphically, and gameplay wise, there was nothing there.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that's always got to be worrisome, because the trailer, I didn't see them play the game, so
right.
I was like, the trailer was like, that looks pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But you telling me about the game is just like, yeah, that sounds kind of. I mean, obviously it's an early build. It's tough to say on a final product, but
right.
like clearly they can't scrape everything and start over. So it's like this is going to kind of be what it is, where it's like, okay, you're going to loot and you're going to have to not get seen, which I'm fine with. Stealth looting, I'm fine with, but like if that's
there's got to be something else. Like I said, it just didn't look right. Like it was all just like long green grass, middle of the day. Just looked like buildings that had been destroyed from like World War II or something, right? And everything was destroyed the same way, and every house was exactly one small block room, and then like a staircase, and then another small block room up top, and it was like I can't tell anything apart. This is boring. Like I don't have any objectives right now, so like, yeah.
Well, let's just hope that
but
early
even
build...
like, and then I went back and looked at the trailer again, and like none of those sceneries are even there. Like the cool like. Cobblestone roads at night, and the police is like investigating the murder and all this stuff. They're like the cops weren't there at all. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Just hope it doesn't Dead Island you.
Right.
The trailer is like, wow, I gotta get this game, and then
yeah.
I mean, obviously the trailer wasn't Dead Island.
No, I know what you're saying,
but
and then it looks like somebody finally made a game based on one of our 3-word pitches.
Which one is this?
Homefront: The Revolution.
Oh yeah.
So it was basically like one of or two of the games that we came up with for 3-word pitch, but basically it's
the elevator simulator.
No, it's the one about like you being part of the revolution, like you had been invaded and you had to do stuff, but then you also had to decide like to be part of the revolution and secretly be doing stuff to get the country back, and that's what Homefront Revolution is.
Yeah.
Except that it didn't have any of the interesting mechanics that we came up with. It's just a first-person shooter.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to implement all the cool stuff that we come up with.
Right. Then they showed off some Halo 5 multiplayer stuff in the stupid esports thing that they like to do.
That was, I mean...
like Evolve
that was the
and stuff.
worst.
Other games do it now, and I just hate it.
That was the worst part of the entire presentation. Because they didn't even have the people on stage.
No, it was a video that had already...
It was a video of people playing, and they just had 2 guys give announcement to a pre-recorded video.
Right, which is stupid.
It's like, cool. Like, if it was happening live, that's one thing, because then I know that, A, the announcers are saying stuff that comes to their head,
right,
and it's not, like, just a script, and 2, it'd just be like, oh, okay, like, one match, whatever, like, anything can happen. But to have it, like, pre-recorded... and then the announcers already know what's coming up. I don't know.
Right. Also, it just bothers me that like esports announcers always are just yelling.
Yeah, that's how you have to get hype.
And I'm not saying just like, hey, there's a way to have energy without physically yelling. First of all, they got to turn the mics down. because they never get it right because they are just shouting. They don't realize that they have a microphone on because they usually just pick 20 something kids that have at one point played esports, and now they're like, okay, now you're announcers.
Yeah.
But they're just screaming the whole time, and it's like, yeah, I know you're trying to force me to get excited about this, but just yelling about every little thing, like, oh, he threw a grenade. I don't care. Like, I can see what's happening. I don't need a play-by-play. But the features they were trying to show off was that there's spectator modes now, and in spectator mode there's the outline of all the characters. So if you're following one guy in third person, you can also see everybody else on the map and see the enemies and stuff. That way, if you're just spectating or you're having somebody commentate, you can say better what's going on without just having a first person view, because you don't necessarily know somebody who's behind that wall or doing something or whatever. I don't think it was worth the presentation they gave.
No, Halo 5 is going to sell no matter what.
Yeah.
They didn't hurt themselves, but definitely, it was one of those things where I was just like, this is the worst part of the press conference. Because, I don't care about esports, and I know that people do, but you can fix this all by having a live two teams play.
Yeah.
But to have it pre-recorded, I was just like, this whole thing could be thrown out the window, because there's no point. It's already pre-recorded.
Or at least have the guys that were commentating pre-recorded while the game was going on live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And play a video, that's fine, but that has everything happening at once and not two guys live on stage and then two teams back pre-recorded.
Yeah.
It's ugh, such a mess.
Also, some other news about Halo 5 came out during the Gamescom, one of which was they showed a campaign level that was playable on the floor. It was the first campaign level with Master Chief and his team, Blue Team, so that was pretty cool. They also said that it's going to be, I guess the running times for the campaign is around 16 hours, which is pretty long, especially it's by far the biggest 343 game, more than twice as long as Halo 4. And they said they originally scheduled it, had planned it out to be 4 times as big as Halo 4, but then had to scale it back, which always happens. But they said the entire campaign obviously is meant had co-op in mind, because you always have those AI characters. So people that were playing it says that it does feel completely different than any other sort of Halo game.
Yeah.
Because even though you can play, the other Halo games 4-player co-op, if the people weren't there,
you're by yourself.
Then you're kind of by yourself.
Yeah.
Except for Halo Reach, which people don't really tend to talk about, which did have AI companions for most of the game. But yeah, I'm excited for it. The fact that it's super long, the campaign's super long, makes me excited.
Yeah, because for people like us who don't necessarily just buy a game and pop it in for multiplayer, it gives you this kind of staying power. Where 16 hours is a pretty good length for a first-person shooter,
right?
And then plus you'll obviously play some multiplayer, so that game has more length already than just
Yeah, it's one of the few games that I know ahead of time that I'm going to play multiplayer for. But just as long as they don't have the stupid achievement for beat the entire game under 3 hours on Legendary by yourself.
You don't care about achievements anymore, remember?
For some games, I'm going to get them all.
You don't need to get seriously anymore.
No, I'm going to have to do that.
Okay.
Would you be interested when Gears of War Ultimate Edition comes out to play the entire game co-op?
Heavens no.
No, you don't want to?
No.
Just the campaign?
I'll play snippets.
Okay. It's not that long. It's maybe 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, we might be able to just Twitch stream it one day or save it for the 24-hour marathon or something like that.
All right.
But
I just wanted to play a couch co-op game. And that's another thing too is Halo 5 does not have split screen. It does not support split screen, which I think is insane.
Online only. It's the way of the future.
Well, it's the way of the future,
nerds.
but Halo has been always rooted in both, split screen and for co-op and split screen because of multiplayer stuff. That's how multiplayer was born. That was the only way to do it, was split screen. So they said, because of the sort of technical things they would have had to change, they would have had to compromise both the aspect ratio and what it looks like. Playing split screen Halo 4 was really bad.
Oh yeah, I imagine.
So it is kind of an improvement, but it's just sad because of the legacy Halo's had with split screen.
Yeah, I can understand when games gave up 4-player split screen.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still think that like 2 players, the horizontal boxes shouldn't really affect much. But whatever. It's a sign of the times.
Right.
Maybe a changing.
And they also announced a Halo 5 Xbox One edition, the console, which I thought looked pretty cool. Like in general, I think always the specialty consoles look stupid, mainly because they like plaster the name of the game and the main character's face everywhere, and that always looks stupid.
Yeah.
But this does not at least it's not in your face. I don't think it says Halo, and there's no Master Chief or anything. It's just sort of black and silver with like little digital Forerunner bluey glowy things, which kind of looks decent. Definitely would not buy it. But
well, you already have an Xbox One.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, hey, if I haven't bought an Xbox One yet, and I was going to buy an Xbox One, it wouldn't be this one, just because there's none of the specialty ones I think ever looked any good.
Yeah.
And they showed some video of some gameplay of Just Cause 3. That looks fun.
Like fun. Yep.
Never played Just Cause 2, but I think the only negative things I had about sort of the first game was the controls weren't super great. And just controls and movement in games have come so far since then. So if they've just upgraded that to be on par with other games, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun.
People talk about Just Cause 2 like it's super awesome.
Yeah.
So I have to imagine that even improving things more so will make... I know a lot of people that are excited for Just Cause 3.
I think
for the only reason of just like, I can't wait to fuck shit up.
Right. It's kind of like... But there's been... I feel like so many games are kind of becoming the same thing. They started off at different points, and now they're sort of in the same circle. Like
when every game can do open world, now every game's just like, hey...
But everyone's like, hey, we want to have a fun version of Grand Theft Auto. But like, you look at your Saints Rows, you look at your Crackdowns, you look at your Just Cause, they're kind of all the same idea now.
Yeah.
You're basically superheroes that can do anything and blow up everything in your path, which is always fun. Like all those games, people have a lot of fun playing.
Yeah, it's just one of
those. But like, if you look at Saints Row 1 compared to like Crackdown 1, they were so far apart from each other, and now they're basically the same game.
Yeah. Yep. Crackdown's like, we can scale buildings with a single jump. And
just like
Saints
the third Row
one
is like you can fly and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they showed some Tomb Raider gameplay. They showed the stealth gameplay, which they hadn't really shown before. So basically, it's like, a camp at night. It's raining, and there's a bunch of like armed, like I don't know what they would be. It looks like they're private security or some sort of like private army sort of things. They have body armor, they have helmets, they have machine guns.
They looked like Mass Effect enemies.
They really did.
They were Cerberus.
Yeah. But so you just slowly go around as Lara Croft and take them out one by one.
Violently murder.
Very violently. Like it's fun when she like jumps off the roof of one of the like little buildings and like has like a tomahawk that she just drives into the guy's neck. I will say, just from a gameplay aspect, it did look like a lot of fun, because it was basically just Splinter Cell and or Batman with killing people.
Yeah.
So I like those games a lot. So I'm gonna have fun in this gameplay mechanic. But to me, just it was not believable at all that Lara Croft by herself in a tank top with like a switchblade would be able to take down a private army of heavily fortified machine gun armor-wearing bad guys.
My thing is, to me, they will have to sell me on the fact that Lara Croft has gone off the deep end and wants to murder
crazy
everyone.
And like, yeah.
Because like, you think like holding true to the character, like Lara Croft has fought like tigers and skeletons and stuff like that.
I would believe if she was doing cartwheels and shooting people with pistols.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that she's like, putting like the blood of her enemies on her face to disguise herself as she slit somebody else's throat.
Yeah, like it just seemed like so out of character for her to just be like, hey, this whole group of people, I'm gonna murder them all. It's like, whoa, Laura, like
I could go around this camp, but I'm not going to.
Why don't you just go to the tomb and get whatever treasure you're after?
But then on the game floor, they did show there is a level that's playable that's all about raiding a tomb.
Yeah.
So, like people have said that have played it before, like it has the aspects of both the new and the old. So it's got a lot of puzzles. It's got a lot of tombs that you can raid in it. So that's good. So you got to see sort of both aspects in the show. And I actually did start playing the reboot last night. Just played a little bit. It's good, but she's just getting her ass kicked. Like, every time she tries to do something, she, like, falls off a cliff or gets something stuck in her face or, like,
yeah, I mean, I think the first one was supposed to kind of be like, becoming a warrior.
I know, but it's like she started off at this point where she's just like a
klutz.
Well, she's like a grad school student that is on a ship that happens to crash on this island, and then as soon as it crashes on this island, all of a sudden she's like this hardcore survival girl.
Yeah.
She's like, raiding bodies and like finding ways to like do all this crazy stuff. Like, the only thing that I've impressed with so far is the fact that she's not given up, because everything else is just kind of unbelievable that this stuff's happening. Like I said, anytime she tries to like jump somewhere, she like slips and falls and hits her face on the ground, or like she gets something stuck in her side.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, she would not still be alive after any of this.
No. Yeah, I mean, I know there's violent deaths in that too.
Yeah.
Getting spikes rammed up your throat.
Oh yeah, if you die, like if you miss a quick time event or something, it's very brutal.
Yeah. I remember watching the Conan play where he was...
She's going down the river and stuff,
and just getting stabbed repeatedly, and it was just like, even Caitlyn... I shouldn't say even Caitlyn, like, she loves
especially
violence,
Caitlyn,
but
right?
she was just like, holy cow, like, you can't play that in front of me.
Yeah.
I don't have the game, but okay.
That's everything that I have written down for the press conference. But...
I mean, let's move on to the important news.
Which didn't even come out at Gamescom. Are you talking about Destiny?
Talk about Peter Dinklage.
So at the same time that Gamescom was going on, Game Informer came out with their new issue, because it was the beginning of the month, and it's all about Destiny and the Taken King and stuff. And the big news about that is Nolan North, another notable voice actor that's been in like every game and every anime. I think Nolan North. He has replaced Peter Dinklage. So they brought him on to do the ghost voice for the Taken King, because there's a lot of story, there's a lot of cutscenes, there's all this other stuff, and because of that, because they didn't just want him doing a Peter Dinklage impression,
which would have been impressive.
Which would have been really
probably
impressive.
Actually more impressive than him doing it.
Yeah, I agree. They've gone back and replaced every line of dialogue that Peter Dinklage ever recorded. So Peter Dinklage, once the Taken King comes out, will no longer be in Destiny.
Yep.
Their explanation for it, which I'm fine with, is that
I think it's partial truths.
Right, but it's a it's a PR stance on why they did it, which I'm okay with. Like, also, they don't want to be dicks to other actors and all this other stuff, but they said their reason was, hey, like, we need somebody that's readily available to record new lines, because we plan to add a lot of story, add a bunch of other stuff, and Nolan North this is his job, is video game voiceover. That's all he does. They're like, hey, we could tell you we're doing a playtest next week, we need you to record 20 lines, and he'll do it the next day. Like, they need somebody that can, and like with Peter Dinklage, not only is he a famous actor, but he's often in Europe shooting Game of Thrones, and so that's just not if they wanted to continue to put the ghost and have story in Destiny, they couldn't have him do it.
Yeah.
Plus, obviously, he did an awful job and tried to tank it. And
yeah, I mean, like I said, I think for sure, like, it's Activision's correct. That's probably one of the many reasons why they got rid of him, is the fact that he's not always available. I obviously think behind the scenes it's probably also like they don't want to admit that he was awful, and then he kind of tanked, and because, like, for two reasons. They don't want to obviously piss off,
right? They don't want to alienate A-list actors because they still want them to be in their games in the future.
But then it's also probably like Nolan North's probably cheaper. They probably
he's definitely cheaper.
Like, hey, we could probably save some money. And
plus they've worked with him before because he was in ODST, and he's been Marine sometimes. So Bungie has they've done it all before.
Yeah, so it's like I listen to him. I'm like, yeah, that's probably the partial truth. You're probably right. That makes sense, but it's also probably not the whole truth.
No,
they're not going to tell you. They're not going to flat out just be like, yeah, well, a lot of people made fun of Peter Dinklage and his voice acting sucked, and he's so expensive that we're cheap and we wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
I think it's weird that they're re-recording all the lines. Because here's my thought of what they could have done. Is they can have more than one... I know Ghost, like, the story-wise, connects to your Guardian.
Yeah.
But they could have had something where, like...
he died or something.
He, gets shot or something, and then it's just like... kind of like I'm thinking like the library levels in like Halo could just be a goddamn flying robot of Nolan North, and he can be doing all the talking.
Just of actually him.
Yeah, just him.
Fly Nolan North.
And it's just like, then it's just like you don't have to go back and change the entire game.
I think it was because they also solved a problem, which was, hey, when we make Destiny 2, we want to keep having the same character. We can't have Dinklage come back and do more awful lines. So I think they're kind of rewriting history. And if you bought The Taken King for the first time, you're not going to be subject to all the awful bad lines. Like, you might as well. Like, he didn't have that much dialogue.
No.
Nolan North can, break that out in one session and just get everything over with. So
I just think it's one of those things where just like I don't know, like
because there are only
I would
two
feel
options.
weird that you can't save it. Like you can't download Taken King and keep Dinklage. Like there's now it's just like there's one option here.
Yeah.
And it's you lose Dinklage.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
they kind of have done that with everything. Anytime they've come out with updates, you've lost all the access to all those guns or clothes and all that other stuff. There's no way to get the day one stuff anymore, just because it's been replaced with newer stuff. That's another thing too. So the level cap has now been upped to level 40, and it's now all based on XP, solely on XP.
They should have done since the beginning.
Yeah. Before in the game, levels 0 through 20 were all based on XP. Once you got to level 20, you had something called light level, which was special armor gave you a certain number of light, and you could sort of stack that up until you got to level, I think it was like, 34, 36. But now they're saying it's just all like XP. And so basically all of the outfits now are 100% cosmetic, which is fine, but also super annoying
because you've spent all that time into upgrading.
Not that I've spent time upgrading, that I ditched the clothes that I really liked because I didn't have space for it because I had to replace it with the shitty new stuff that had a higher light level. So now I can't even just wear the costumes that I've liked because, like I said, I've deleted them, and there's no way to access those again. There's no way to go back and get those again because they've been replaced. Another thing is all of the year one stuff has been capped, like especially the weapons have been capped off at a certain point. So before, you could upgrade stuff, you could ascend them, you could do different stuff to get them on par with the new stuff. Now is any of that stuff that existed in year one is going to be at the level it's at. And so basically the worst weapons in the Taken King will be better than the best weapons from year one.
Makes people want to buy it.
Exactly. It forces you to buy it. And I mean, it's
if you're going to compete. If you're going to play by yourself, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but you can't really you can't do all the activities by yourself.
No.
But yeah, I mean, we kind of knew it was going to happen. Like, we're talking about how they're like nerfing the Gallhorn and all this other stuff. We had a feeling that they were trying to force you to get it. But it's annoying that, like, hey, like, I really like this gun, I want to be able to use it. Like, it's cool that they're like, okay, we want you to use other weapons, because if you have a weapon that you like, you're going to use that 99.9% of the time. So it is fun to sort of be forced to use other weapons, but then to lose access, like, there's no reason to use any of your weapons basically anymore that you have.
No, you just wait, get the new ones.
And so what people are gonna do is they're gonna have to delete all the weapons they have to get, have the space now in your vault to have all the new weapons. Then when like the Taken King 2 comes out or whatever the next expansion is gonna be, they're like, hey, you can level up your year one stuff. But it's like, well, now everybody got rid of that stuff. Like, they keep going, like, they keep seesawing back and forth in the ways. Every time a new expansion comes out, they completely reinvent the upgrade systems.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like,
unfortunately, they do.
As much as I, give them shit that they're screwing things up, they know from a business perspective what they're doing. They may not be doing it like we know what we're doing from a gamer side.
Yeah.
But just like, if we make everything worse and then make the DLC have the good stuff, and we're mainly a multiplayer game, you're gonna want to get the DLC so that you can continue to play with your friends and not drag them down.
Yeah.
Or if you want to compete, you're gonna need this stuff to compete.
I mean, that's all I got really on Gamescom, other than I was watching people play Cuphead. Looks like a lot of fun. When Cuphead comes out, will you play that couch co-op with me?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Guarantee.
Yeah.
And we will get our ass handed to
Oh,
us.
yeah, I know.
100 times.
100 times. But it seems like people are saying it's still super hard with a co-op buddy, but I feel like you almost need a co-op partner because the bosses throw so many different things at you. You got to have like one person dealing with whatever they're throwing while the other person tries to do damage to the boss. Otherwise, you're constantly just avoiding obstacles and never actually doing damage to them. So,
Yeah.
not to strategize too early.
Yeah. Well,
But just that game looks so great. I just love the
visually,
art style
it
of that
looks
game.
amazing. Yeah.
And like when you die, a little like ghost cartoon floats up above you. Ah, it's so good.
When's that come out?
I don't know. Not soon
Is
enough.
it tomorrow?
No, I wish it was tomorrow. I think it's this fall. It's got to be this fall, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
holidays. 2018.
yeah, you'll be just playing the first BioShock right when that comes around.
I think I'll be just starting Double Dragon 1.
Yeah, you're going the wrong way.
I'm going back and I'm playing every game chronologically.
Since the history of
History
release
of
games.
video games. So I'm up to 1988.
So you play anything else?
Yeah,
You want to talk about the games you're playing?
sure. Besides the boring ones that I've talked about a lot,
Yeah.
I played.
Did you want to talk about Mass Effect DLC? Because I know you played like the Citadel and stuff.
Yeah, I played. I did the DLC for Citadel, which is you throw a party. The big
That's
high points.
That's kind of the one that came. That was the last one to come out.
Yeah.
And it kind of is supposed to sort of take place after the story.
No, yes and no. There's a part. There's
okay.
There's a cutscene.
Chronologically, it does not take place after the story. I'm just
No.
saying that.
Yes, it
it
came
was
out
made-
after people beat the game.
Right. It was the last DLC. It was the last thing they did in the Mass Effect original trilogy.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be this sort of like going away nostalgic party because that's what you do. You're throwing a party.
Yeah, yeah.
There's other things story that happens before that, but
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I have definitely now. I can say that the best two stories in Mass Effect 3
we're in the DLC.
were DLC.
Yeah.
It's the Citadel, and it's the
Like
the one
From
where you
Ashes or
go
something.
underwater.
Yeah.
You're in the Big Mac. I can't remember the name of the DLC.
Yeah,
but those
I
are
thought that should have been part of the story.
Yeah, no, for sure.
The
Where you
mech
find
thing,
a Reaper.
It was great. I was like, oh, this is
That's-
amazing.
When I finished that the first time, and I came in, and I was like, that was the best part of Mass Effect 3. And you were like,
Yeah.
you told me like, hold on, you haven't played that much of the game.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like that DLC, whatever, From Ashes, whatever. I think it's
Yeah, From
probably
Ashes,
what it is.
yeah.
That is by far like you can play that and you'll get goosebumps because you're like, wow, if you play that first, like Mass Effect 3 is gonna be great.
Yeah.
And then you play the rest of the game, and you're like,
Wah, wah.
not so much. The Citadel was good. I thought the story was unique enough where it's like, okay, yeah, this is worth it. Where you kind of fight, a replicant of yourself, and
Yeah.
they explain why that exists. I thought the throwing the party's fun. I kind of like that, like you have to mingle and all this stuff, and you kind
Yeah.
of get to hear like comrades that you had from 1 and 2 and 3 all kind of
And they're
mixed
all-
together. And
There is alternate versions depending on like
how far you are,
right,
in the
or
story
also
and-
if it was Grunt or if it was Rex, that sort of stuff.
or if people died or if they
Yeah.
didn't die. I thought that was good. I will say the
did you
negative.
romance somebody?
Yeah, I've romanced somebody.
But did you like at the party you did?
No. it
Okay,
was-
you can romance somebody else at the party. That's not one of your current partners.
well, you can spoil it for me because I've already beaten it. But
No, that's all I'm saying is you have the option to go after somebody else and hook up with them at the party.
I thought you were telling me there's like a secret person you can romance.
No,
at the
not
party,
like
and I'm
one person. I just meant like you have the option to, if you converse them the right way,
Oh, okay.
you can choose to romance them at the party. Then you like wake up with them the next morning.
Yeah, there's like the fact that the camera stayed on the side of the bed and there's
Yeah.
no one in it.
Yeah.
Like Caitlin was like, I wonder, there's probably supposed to be someone there. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I haven't picked a mate yet. But what I will say, my negative about that is the little crucible or whatever that you play in an arena.
Yeah, this sort of like virtual reality
The virtual
fight
reality
simulator.
arena.
Yeah.
I thought that there is too much of that DLC dedicated to that arena.
I think they were like, we need to have fighting. We need to have some sort of fight gameplay in this. And they added that, and then they're like, oh, well, it's easy to stretch this out.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy, and it's something like if you really enjoy the fighting in Mass Effect, then that's something that you can just go in and you can set whatever difficulty and whatever enemies, and I get why it's in there, but they also have a lot of stuff tied to it, where it's like
they force you to do it.
Just to complete the one mission that's in it requires you to have played like, I think a minimum of like 13 matches in there, to have bought all these specific items, and then the story aspect starts, where then you have to play matches in there, but under certain criteria.
Yeah.
Just like, have me play like 3, and then have the mission, and then it's just like, play 3 more, and then if I want to continue, I can continue, but like, having me do like, okay, you have to like minimum like 15 missions at this thing. I'm just like sick of going in here and like just playing for score, so I'm like, all the modifiers up, all of my modifiers down, blah, blah, blah. Just whatever. All in all, it's a positive DLC.
Yeah.
It's my second favorite behind From Ashes, but now I'm back to the real game. Caitlin got into it real bad, so we've been playing it more.
That's good. I think that's what you need to do, is just sit down and power through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I still gotta start it again on Insanity, so it's gonna be a double.
Are you going to try to do everything again? Like, do all the side missions again?
Well, because the one achievements do all the missions on Insanity or get all golds in multiplayer, and I'm not going to do the multiplayer.
No, that's just the N7 missions. That's not every mission.
Maybe I reread it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, I probably won't do all the sides, but I'll probably do.
But will you do all the DLCs again, or you just avoid that stuff?
Yes and no. I'll probably do them, the fun ones. I'll probably skip the arena altogether because I don't need like whatever the little benefit is.
Yeah.
I'll be more choosy, is what I'll say. I'll probably do like From Ashes again because I enjoyed that. I might do Omega again because that was.
But decent. You're not going to do like 100% completion.
I'm not going to do 100%. Yeah. I'm not going to be like, I got to upgrade this armor all the way, or I got to make sure Trainer is in love with me, or whatever it's going to be. So that, I've played, obviously, Mega Man. I bought a game, Rocket Riot. I'm sure a lot of people... Is it Rocket Riot? No, Rocket League. Rocket League.
Yeah.
Everyone probably knows about this game already. I bought it for my PC. It is Car Soccer. Or Sock Car is what it should have been called.
Car, yeah.
It is really fun.
Yeah?
Is
it fun to play by yourself though, or?
Yeah, I mean it's just fun.
Okay.
Because I don't play it online.
Yeah.
And I'm playing against bots, I can see how it won't hold my interest for as long as, let's say, basketball or something like that. But right now, while it's still like new, and I'm still not very good at it, so it's like getting better while playing is kind of the like, I'm having more fun.
Yeah.
Once I get good enough where it's just like the difficulties don't mean anything and I'm scoring like 100 goals, then it'll just be like, well,
but then also if you try to play online, you would get destroyed.
Would have no chance.
Yeah.
Even though I'm only like a month late, I'm too far gone.
Right.
Like if you didn't pick that up and start practicing immediately, you're done.
Right. Makes me want to go and play iDarb again. Let's get 4 guys in a room and play iDarb.
We can do 4 people in iDarb.
Yeah.
But for people who don't know, it's literally like an arena car soccer game. Like there's at most it's 4 on 4.
Arcadey.
Yeah, it's very arcadey. It's very simple to play. Like there's 2 buttons really. There's boost and there's jump. And it's physics based, I guess is how I'd say it. But it's not like you hit a giant ball. And the ball's going to travel based on like the angle.
Yeah.
It's going to bounce. You have to time your jumps to like the bounces because there's a lot the first time you're playing is you're just mistiming everything.
Yeah.
And missing everything. It's split screen, so that's good. So next time you come over, play some split screen.
In like an hour from now?
Yeah, we can play some.
Okay.
Play some. And it's I don't know. It's a lot of fun. Besides that, and Mass Effect and Turok and Mega Man.
Yeah.
There'll be another video up on the site, on the YouTube, today as I'm recording this, but it'll definitely be out Monday when you're hearing this. A new series, because I keep starting new series.
I don't know if that's the best idea. But...
Yeah, no, just new series all day.
Never get people invested in what you're doing.
No. That doesn't mean I'm giving up the other series.
No, I know. I think people got upset though because like that one day I released all the Twitch videos,
Yeah.
and then I think their like news stream was like 15 videos from us.
Blew up. Yeah.
Yeah, because we lost a subscriber that day.
All 8 down to 7.
5 down to 4.
Okay, even better. But where I'm trying to play, once again, good games that I feel people don't know about. So my first game, a little gem for the normal Nintendo called Kickle Cubicle.
Yep. Which we brought up during the Build a Title that one time.
Yeah, so I played that for an hour. I already got other games lined up that I want to play for that. But I've been playing that. That's about all. That's all I'll say.
That's all you got for now?
Rocket League, Mega Man, Kickle Cubicle,
Yeah.
Mass Effect, Turok. Yeah.
Sweet.
Basketball.
Yeah, always basketball.
Always basketball.
Oh, that reminds me, the beta for the NHL 16, the EASHL, the like, you know, EA Sports Hockey League.
Yeah.
Which is the beta's going on right now, and you basically you have to create a full team to play with. So you just go online, find another team, but you have to be playing I think 5-on-5 or 6-on-6 because it won't even start the match until you have enough people in there. So every player is human controlled
Interesting.
in this league.
I would hate to be a goalie.
Right? There is an offline mode, but not in the beta, obviously, because they don't care about that.
Yeah.
But
Test our offline
yeah, exactly.
mode.
So it's I haven't really been able to play because I can't. All the teams are full, and they like you can't join a team unless if a certain amount of people are in it, and then all those are already full. And if you don't have a full team, you can't play anyways. So it's kind of been a struggle because I came on like a week too late.
Yeah.
And so now everyone's already on the team. So I just made my own team, the John Turok's.
Nice.
Because the first thing you do is create a character, and so
Yeah.
I created John Turok.
Is he a big, bulky white guy?
Kind of, yeah. Tried to make him a mix between a Space Marine and a Native American.
Nice. I like it.
I forgot what I had the announcer call him though. Something silly.
I wish. When are we going to get to the point where you can program how they just say things? So I want an announcer to go, Turok!
Turok!
Yeah. Just over and over. Every goal. Every time he even touches the puck.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
That's another thing the game Turok should have more of is just someone yelling Turok all the time.
Yeah, no one yells Turok.
No. Turok doesn't yell Turok every time he makes a kill, even if it's a stealth knife kill, he should be like, Turok.
Yeah, whisper to their ears so they know.
So they know who killed him.
Yep.
Turok. Turok's taking your life right now.
Yep. Did watching me play Turok on that video make you want to play?
Absolutely not.
You sure?
Yeah.
It's a big dinosaur I fought.
There was a big dinosaur, and you killed him the first try.
Yep.
Not the first knife swipe, but the first overall attempt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the main game that I played this week was Dying Light.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if our initial reviews hold up.
They do. That's when I went back and thought about all the things I was going to say. It basically, everything we said, all the criticisms we had at the beginning of the game, I think held true for the rest of it, which were, I hate this main character. I absolutely hate the main character. Before I hated him because of who he was, hey, somebody had to sacrifice themselves for you and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Now I just hate him because he's just an asshole. Like, he was a dick the whole time. He's like, ugh, like, I don't like. He literally says like fuck you to everybody that he encounters. Like, he's working.
Maybe that's just like his greeting and his goodbye.
I know.
Fuck you too.
Yeah, but he's upset with the he's working for that other the GRE, right?
Yeah,
that sends him in that he has his secret radio calls to all the time.
Yeah.
He's constantly telling them almost off the bat to go the fuck themselves, even though he's working for them. Anytime anybody asks him to do a story mission, he tells them to fuck off and like fuck you and like I'd rather be helping people. Then when he goes to help the people, he's always like, oh God, yeah, I guess. Yeah, kid, I guess I'll go find your dad. Like, I'm trying to do stuff here.
Like, can't you see me kicking this zombie?
Yeah, like, anytime but that's the thing, like, the whole time he was doing the main story, he's complaining that he just wants to help people. And then when he has the chance to help people, he's always like, ugh. Like, it's like trying to ask a teenager to, like, take the trash out. It's just like, oh, God, I guess. Ugh.
I'm busy.
God, Dad, I don't wanna. And so, like, he kind of has no allegiance because he doesn't want to work with anyone. At the same time, he's working for everyone and anyone that ask him. Both the good guys and the bad guys in the story. He works for the bad guys when they ask him to do stuff.
Hey, will you kill your boss for me? Oh,
Yeah,
fine.
Fine. I was going to kill him anyways, but I guess I'll do it for you. So that stuff was annoying.
Yeah.
Also, the main criticism is the leveling up system is just horrible. I had no fun playing the game for the first couple of hours because I couldn't kill a zombie. All you got to do is avoid them, and you have no parkour stats either. You get tired after 5 feet. You can barely jump to a ledge, and so like it was just sort of torture early on. And because of that too, your parkour level gets leveled up really quickly. And then my other skills weren't, so I was like 3 levels above in my parkour.
Is it one of those things where it levels up the more you use it? Is that how your parkour leveled up faster, or are you allocating points and you're just like, I need to do this?
Yeah, so there's 3 categories. You got survival, you got free running, and then you have weapons. And anytime you do anything in those categories, you get points.
Oh, okay.
So like every time I jumped over a ledge, I got 20 points for parkour. But I can only then use my skill point once I've maxed out that level.
Gotcha.
And then you do sort of have a little skill tree sort of thing. Because all I could do was avoid things for the first 5 hours of the game, that went up really fast.
Yeah, and everything else sacrificed.
And then and then I still could barely use like a pipe to kill anybody. But then because my level started going up, it went from like, hey, I was getting weapons that did 24 damage to weapons that did like 300 damage. And then I get that weapon, I would craft it real quick, and before I even got a chance to use it, I'd find a weapon that had 500 damage, and then like 1500. Like it went up so quickly, and it went up too slow. And then when it did, it jumped. It just skyrocketed up to the point where like I could kill the really bad guys that had huge health in one swipe. So I was no longer even running away from things. So like the first 10 hours was me avoiding everything. Then after 12 hours, I could kill everything like a god. So it was just a bad leveling up system overall.
Yeah, it just sounds like bad balancing.
Also, the last perk you get, the last parkour skill you can unlock is Tic Tac, which is like, run up 2 feet up a wall. Like if you run to a wall, you sort of stick to it and you can run up or you can jump off the other way. That should be the first thing you unlock. That should be just part of your normal arsenal that you get. Because every other game, whether or not it really has free running or not, you can do that in. So because that's the last stat, like, 1, you don't use it, and 2, like, I just felt like the parkour was not up to snuff, even though that was like its main draw, and like the guy that created parkour helped them with the stuff. Looking at games like an Assassin's Creed, let alone like a Mirror's Edge, like that's who does parkour right. And there's no wall running in this game. Every game now has wall running, even first-person shooters that have no explanation of why you can run on a wall.
Yeah.
But for a game that's 100% parkour, to not have wall running, that's stupid. The story was super long, so if you like that game, that's great. It's more than twice as long overall than like Dead Island.
And Dead Island was long too.
It felt long.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I didn't tell you the hours. I was just like, oh god.
But I thought Dead Island did some things that were more fun. One, I just like the sort of the tropical locale was more interesting than for this. It's like, the slums is literally the name of the town you're in, and it's just like gray, like 5-story buildings everywhere. At least that was like, you got to be by the beach and there was palm trees, and like that was a little bit more fun and interesting.
Yeah,
you got to like
color
run around to huts
different.
and stuff like that. There was like an actual hotel in the middle of the island that you could go to. Plus you could drive around. Driving around was way more fun than like running around in this game, which is why they're adding drivable vehicles in the next DLC for Dead Island.
You mean Dying Light?
Sorry, you're right. Dying Light.
I'm like, if they're adding DLC to Dead Island, I gotta pick that game back up. Make sure my character's still maxed.
And they did the same. I feel like they did the same exact thing they did in Dead Island, where it's like, okay, there's 2 different cities basically connected by like the sewers. Like you're one big city, then you have to go through the sewers for a while, then you show up at another city.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what they did.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly what they did, yeah. And you can't actually just go like free run to the other city. You have to go back through the sewers. Yeah.
Stupid. But the other city is called Old Town, and the style of that is completely different. It's like a mix between like everything from like Morocco to like Spanish to like, you know, cathedral sort of stuff. So that was more interesting. And in that area, I spent almost the entire time on the rooftops. I never really was on the ground unless if I had to go pick up something. One, there's way more enemies, and there's like the big bad guys, the sort of brutes there. So you kind of want to avoid it anyways. Plus, there was ways to get around. There was like cables and stuff connecting buildings. So if you couldn't just jump there, you can get to that. Also, one of the things you unlock towards the very end, once you become an expert at like parkour, you get a grappling hook.
Okay.
Which was a lot of fun. The movement was way better. It was like, you know, when we played the zombie DLC,
yeah,
and we had the tentacle arm.
Yeah.
And so like that's all I was using. Once I got that, I was only using that. So it kind of shows that the game was kind of broken to begin with, and then that even broke the game, but in a way that made the game more fun at least. Even to the point where you could actually look down and grappling hook yourself down to the ground to avoid fall damage. Because okay, that's another thing too. So fall damage is huge in this game, right? Like you can slip off a one-story building and hurt yourself. And so once you got to a certain point, like you would die really easily from falls, which was frustrating because they want to encourage you to free run everywhere and to jump off buildings and to do everything.
They want you to free run but never mess up,
right? And the thing is, like they even say in the game, like it's all about momentum. Like you can't make the jump unless if you're in a full sprint or you've already like jumped off of one wall or something like that. And because of that, to punish you so easily for messing up, and like there's like maybe 3 or 4 different spots where you can like jump off a building and safely land in a dumpster or something like that, but you can never see them. You have to look physically at them before you run and jump at them to get them. So you can't do it if you don't have the momentum. So it's like you have to run to the end of the building, stop, look at where it is, okay, back up all the way to the other side of the building, and then run again just to jump off the building, which completely kills the momentum. Like it's not fun. And then they take away experience points. Like we experienced this at first.
Yeah, when you die.
It was a couple of points. It was like, 300-400 points. Then it got to the point where I was losing like 4,000 points anytime I would die. And 4,000 points is a lot of points, considering like you could do missions where you go and protect somebody. They randomly pop up on the level. They're like, "Hey, will you protect me? I got to go to 3 places essentially, and then you got to bring me back to the safe house." So you have to defend.
Do you get a chopper, and are they driving a van?
That would have been more fun.
And then do you have to shoot all of the incoming
because
Yakuza?
any random like zombies you encounter, they have to kill. They won't just avoid them. And sometimes you'll have big guys and stuff. So anyway, and they're like super fragile. So you have to do that. It takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and you get 200 points for doing that.
Worth it.
So that's like 400 times of doing that just to accomplish like one death. So it just kind of killed me that like they're trying to force you to do all these things that are super hard to do, and then they punish you greatly for even attempting them. So it's like you had to really be like risk aversion the entire time,
which is not how you're supposed to play a free running game.
There were some interesting story missions. My favorite things though were there's these things called quarantine zones, which were like you had to they were almost hidden around the level. There's only 8 of them. And they weren't popping up on my map, and I didn't realize why. I thought I had to wait till later in the story. But you physically have to go to a door that's a quarantine zone, even though there's no marker on the map, then investigate it. Then it's like, hey, now there's quarantine zones. So I didn't know until almost the end of the game. But they throw you in different situations. Each building's different. It's like, oh, there's a million of the zombies that, if they see you, they'll kill you right away, and you have to stealth it. Or you have to break into these bunch of cars. Some of them have car alarms, some of them don't. Or there was this. My favorite one was like, you were just in this like broken down motel, and you had all these different floors, and you had to go through, and you had to like puzzle. You had to like lockpick and go into different rooms, and then you had to like find different, like a voice recorder that brought you to another room. So all that, the pacing of that was great. Like I kind of wanted like a horror game, in a mansion sort of thing. Like that was fun. There was also another side mission too, where it's like, okay, you had to find these missing kids because you would rescue this one guy, and he had a kid with him. He's like, hey, will you go and find his brother and sister and sort of thing. And so you go back to their apartment, and you find these clues, and you follow the screen turns like a sepia tone, like an old detective novel, and you don't have any of the stuff on your HUD, you don't have your weapons, you can't free run, and you just have to explore the entire apartment complex to find out where they went. And then it ends up where you're in the basement in this like locker, because this like guy took them and like he killed them and stuff. But
Sure.
like you then have to beat the psychopath that shows up.
Yeah.
But just that stuff was really interesting to me, and it was far different than the main story campaign. And just that stuff was fun.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's just having that kind of restrictions or that set guideline.
Yeah.
But then playing in the world is way more fun than just like, hey, stand here and protect this person for 20 minutes while they fight every single zombie that comes across them.
Yeah, and it was annoying. Like, almost 90% of all the people that I came across to do side missions were just assholes and jerks, and they were all stereotypes. They like so much racism in this game. Like, for no reason, there's a guy from like South Jersey that's like all about his muscles and stuff. There's like,
That's not racism, that's true.
But that was the American version I used, and everybody's like, oh, well, like what you Americans would say. Like, that's what they said to like my main character all the time.
Yeah.
Trying to use like cliches and stuff. But there was a lot of other races that I don't want to even talk about. They were heavily. One of the first side missions you get, you have to go get medicine from a guy that's mentally retarded. Like, he's putting on that voice, he is retarded. And it's like, they're like, don't get him angry because he has retard strength, like stuff like that. And it's just like, I feel like such a jerk just playing this game. But there was the only like side missions that I really liked was there was like this old man that was taking control of, there was like this kindergarten and stuff, and he got stuck in there, and he was wearing like a little wizard's hat because he was trying to entertain the kids and stuff. Yeah. And that little stuff was interesting because you could like talk to the kids and be like, hey. I was like, I lost all my blocks. Will you go find my blocks? And then you can do that. And this one girl's like, and then, he did go, oh, fine. Like, I don't, like, I don't have time. The kid's like, hey, can I tell you a secret? He's like, I lost my blocks. And he goes, that's not a secret, kid. I have to go. And like, why are you being such a jerk to this little kid?
Children are nothing but zombie food.
And then this little girl's like, hey, I don't want to go outside because there's a troll outside. And you're like, haha, okay, stupid kid, I'll go kill the troll. And then there's this giant monster. Like, you kill this one zombie, and she's like, okay, I killed the troll. And she's like, that wasn't the troll.
Then you look behind you.
Yeah, and it's like a giant hulking guy.
His name's Dan.
I don't know. I will say, like, there was a point in the middle where I really did enjoy I did start liking the game, and I didn't know if it was just, like, Stockholm system. I don't know if it was, like, Destiny effect.
Yeah.
Where, like, I've played it for so long.
That's all I know.
Yeah. I don't know how other games work.
I can't admit that I've wasted this time.
But there was a point when your level gets up where you can run around okay, where your weapons do decent damage but aren't overpowered, where it was fun. Also, we haven't actually even talked about, so the nighttime is actually the most fun, because in this game, at night, things are completely different. So at night, it turns into sort of this stealth mode thing. There are these zombies, they're called like volatiles. If they see you, they have little cones of vision that you can see on your minimap. If they see you, they freak out, they scream, they come after you, they call more to you. So you basically have to just sort of sneak around, crouch. They don't really care about your flashlight, which is cool. But you can also just start killing other zombies, because other zombies will either make enough noise that the other ones will hear it, or if you just start killing zombies, they start changing into the special infected too. So that's kind of interesting. And then there was the one guy that we saw at the end of the cutscene of the tutorial we played, the fast ones, right? They're called bolters. It would have been interesting if they would have been like runners turned into zombies, but they didn't. It wasn't that interesting. They were just special. They basically took every special zombie from Left 4 Dead or Dead Island or both. Like, it was all like you had. Did
anyone barf on you?
You had boomers.
Cool.
They just blow up, though. They don't throw up on you. You do have spitters. They're toads, but they're spitters that spit at you. Then you basically have hunters that don't pounce on you, but they run at you and chase you and scratch you and stuff like that. All the things are there. But the bolters are interesting because they are... there's certain places around the level, they're called their feeding grounds, where they'll sit there and they'll eat and stuff. And they'll be surrounded by a bunch of volatiles that have their little cones of vision. So you have to find ways to sneak up on the bolters if you want to kill them, because they have like special poison inside them or something that you can use for your weapons or crafting and stuff like that. So that stuff was a lot of fun. Like, just the gameplay mechanics changing to be like, I want to be stealthy. I want to find a way to distract these guys to sneak in there. But at the same time, I don't want to scare the bolter away, because once he starts running, it's near impossible to try to catch him. But then when it was also fun to, when I got to the point where I was superhuman and had a grappling hook, I would just grappling hook right into the guy, kill him, like
Grappling hook out.
yeah, like raid his body and then grappling hook out. Or if the guys tried to attack me, I could just kill them in one swipe anyways. Yeah, I think there's a fun game in there. If you liked Dead Island, you'll definitely like this. They basically improved a lot of things.
Did anyone like Dead Island?
A lot of people did.
Oh, okay.
But everyone likes this a lot more.
Yeah.
There's like 50 plus side missions that all have like multiple steps to them. You're constantly doing stuff. There's a lot of things that happen in the world randomly / organically. Like in the first area you're at, you have airdrops where, an airplane will come overhead and they'll drop supplies down. And you basically try to get there before the soldiers get there to raid it. So you can either get there before them and you get both packages. You get there while they're already there and you have to fight them. Mm-hmm. And you get only half the supplies then. And at first it was like you can't even attempt to engage them for a long time because you're not strong enough. Another thing is there's a lot of gunplay in this game. Like the gunplay is not very good, but they force you to a lot of the story missions, especially when you're going against the bad guys. It's all basically just turns into a first-person shooter. But because the controls aren't great, it's kind of annoying how much they force you to use guns. But also it's interesting, if you use guns, it makes a lot of sound, and basically the hunter zombies will show up and go after you. So it's always a risk-reward sort of thing. Yeah, I will say this was a better version of Dead Island.
But still not great.
Not every aspect was better, but yeah, it was good. It was fun. At some point, once you get weapons that you're able to actually kill zombies with, once you can craft weapons that have like fire and electricity and toxic and all this stuff, it's fun to kill them. It's fun to unlock skills where you can come up behind them and just break their neck before they even know you're there. There's a camouflage effect where you instead of looting the body, you just grab their innards and rub it all over you so that the normal ones don't notice you, so you can kind of just wander around them, or if there's a bunch of them, that's a way you can avoid it without having to fight everyone. The DLC is super hard. They're stupid, and they added a title update, one of which was open up 6 GRE chests in the quarantine zones, which I didn't realize was DLC sort of thing. And if I would have unlocked one more, I would have had to do all the new challenges they added, which include like do all of the parkour missions at night, which make them super hard. Only 4 people have completed it on TA out of the like 25,000 that have completed the rest of the game.
Yeah. So
I'm glad I didn't accidentally get that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds
it's way better than what we played. That stupid tutorial that we played, it gets way better than that.
Yeah, but you said like 10 hours in.
It gets better than that almost right away once you start playing the actual story and you get to like run around to different things and clear out safe zones or start looting for stuff. And man, I spent so much time picking locks, especially to start with. It was basically a lockpick simulator the first couple of hours because I just needed resources. I couldn't really kill zombies for things. I couldn't pick up weapons. So it was just me opening chests until I got enough weapons and resources to start crafting. But also I got way better at lockpicking because I had to do it literally hundreds of times.
Yeah.
You have to pick open like door locks. You have to pick open like chest. You have to pick open like cars and just, any variations of those things too. Like sometimes when I was in that hotel, I had to pick like every other door. But then I got to the point where I could do it in probably 3 or 4 seconds rather than like 3 or 4 minutes like it was taking us before.
Yeah. Was there a trick that we just did now?
No, you just sort of feel it better. And like, okay, if it's medium, I just sort of mentally spliced up the circle into like different things. Like, okay, there's probably only 4 different points on the right it can be, or 4 different points on the left, and I would go to those points, and if I wouldn't at least get halfway, I would know it was the next one. And And then same thing, it was then you get like, hard and then very hard. And then the very hard ones you have to do like we were before, like just a little bit, and then go a little bit more until you feel the tension in it. But at that point too, I had hundreds of lockpicks, so I didn't even care if I broke them. Just do it super fast until you find out where it is.
Yeah, there's also, no like, we only have one lockpick, quick, back out of this chest before it breaks.
I would back out sometimes because it does reset it. So it's 3 or 4 vibrations depending on how hard you pull it, or if you back out, it resets it. And the good thing is when you back out, it does not reset where the lock was. Like
it just resets your lockpick. It just resets
the lockpick.
Nice.
So, if you had an Xbox One, I would let you borrow this game to play for a little bit. I think you would end up enjoying it. I
mean, it's one of those games where I've always thought, like, if I see it on a good Steam sale, I'll pick it up. But I've never seen a sale where I'm just like, yeah, I feel like that's worth it. Just because
if you played a co-op, I'm sure it's a lot more fun from the beginning too.
Yeah.
Like I haven't played any really co-op. I had it set to where people can randomly join your game, and because one of the achievements is like win 7 co-op challenges. So when you're playing co-op, it'll randomly give you like this challenge, like, hey, kill the most zombies in 30 seconds or whatever. And I was a level 5, and they were always level 25, which is the max level, and they'd have great weapons and all that stuff. So I never would do any challenges with them, and they never wanted to do story campaigns or anything. They just wanted to get those challenges out of the way. So then I just turned off the Xbox Live matchmaking stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't have any of the co-op achievements. There's like 3 or 4 of them.
If you hold out 10 years or so.
But this is a fucking game too. So there's
that turned real fast.
Well, just the collectibles.
Yeah,
it's the goddamn collectibles, right? So there's 100 zombie statues. There's like 50 flags. There are notes to find. There are journals. There are voicemails, all totaling to 197 collectibles for this game. And you have this little thing where you hold the A button, it does this sort of sense out that we had before, right? That sort of like highlights the unlockables. But if you're not constantly doing that,
you're going to run past them.
And it only does it like a 5-foot radius around you anyways. So 197 collectibles. That's a lot.
It sounds like fun.
A lot. And the only achievement you ever get is for getting all of them.
All 197?
It's like all of the you get all the notes category. Or whatever, so it's like you gotta get the notes, the battle journals, and the voicemails, and that's an achievement. I don't want to do it. Like I said, I had a decent time with this game. I just don't want to play anymore. I got 950 out of 1,000 achievement points.
You don't have to.
So I can just move on, and I would be happy.
Remember, make that switch. We talked about it earlier in the episode.
I know.
Turn that switch, go for total score. So then you're still focused on numbers, but you can play Lara Croft, and you could just play single player and then just be like, good, got it, done.
Yeah.
I could play the new game now.
Yeah. I keep coming around to it. I'm trying to summarize this game, but there are some fun stuff. You get some abilities where you can like stun the enemies, or you can like finish them. There's like finishing moves, or like if they're on the ground, you can stomp their head instantly. Yep. And after a while of like starting off the game where we had to punch and kick people like 50 to 60 times to kill them, it's great to then when you're in a horde of zombies like knock somebody down, like do a running slide kick, break one of their legs, and when they fall down, stomp on their head to kill them. Like, it's fun.
I imagine,
there's a couple of points where I'm like, this is a fun game.
Once you're powered up enough and the zombies are just there as fodder, that it's fun. It's just that whole like getting to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't crazy about the parkour, and obviously you've talked about how that's not great.
But once you get the grappling hook, you can forget about parkour.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. It's all like the game seems like it's really based on like, well, once you get here, you're really going to enjoy it.
Right.
Just like, well, okay.
I think if they just would have done a better job of separating the leveling up of each category better, just sort of spread some things out and moved some pieces around, I think it would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
But
I'll get it someday.
Yep.
But then again, I'll get every game someday.
Someday, yeah. And then not play those. Yeah. Not the good ones, at least.
Well, good thing Dead Island doesn't, or
Dying Light
doesn't fall on the good side.
Yeah. Alright, guys, that was an episode.
That was an episode. Yeah. Maybe one of the last.
Possibly one of the second last. This is the penultimate episode, possibly.
Possibly.
But if you guys don't want this to be the last episode, please fill out the survey that you can find at our Twitter, at NotFunPodcast. You can also find it at our website, thisisn'tfunnymorepodcast.com. If anything is not covered there, if you just want to talk to us, you can always email us at thisisn'tfunnymorepodcast podcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
Also, YouTube page is growing every day. And hopefully we will do more Twitches at twitch.tv/thisisn'tfunanymore.
Well, we will in October.
We definitely will in
sure.
October, yeah.
Even if this podcast doesn't exist, we will still do the 24-hour game marathon.
But guys, please, 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 if you can, take a couple minutes to do this survey. It'll help us out a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thanks for coming out. What do you think of the robot interns sign-offs the last couple episodes?
They've been good.
Okay. Should we give them a chance to do another one?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Any sign-offs that I don't have to do,
right,
are perfect.
That's
for me.
a problem for future me. All right, guys, thanks for listening.
01110100 01110100 01110100 LOLOLOLOLOLOL